A year or so back, I had made a post on my Instagram titled My Honest Opinion About Some Anime and Manga Fan Bases. The post, I believe, was made a couple of months after the first part of season 4 and the final chapter of the manga came out, so the fan base was at its worst. But still, here's what I had to say about the fan base, and I'm paraphrasing it to remove the swears and typos. Scum of society. Bottom 1 fan base, they're actually trying to make a whole Attack on Titan anime remake. Back then, there were talks of the Shingeki no Requiem series getting a fan animation. The Attack on Titan fan base is probably the only one that hates their own show. Quite frankly, they're single-handedly bringing down the reputation of the entire anime community, and something needs to be done about that. Only a very small fraction of them are actually cool. I then went on to make some assumptions about the average Attack on Titan fan. I guess that they didn't know that nearly every anime uses CGI. The CGI hate was at its highest back then. I guess that they were either over 30 years of age or get beat up at school a lot. Sticking to school, I guess they are either in middle school or said what EU anime back when they were, and a few more which are not very relevant. Pretty much everything I said still stands, doesn't it? I can confidently say that the Attack on Titan fanbase is the very worst in all of anime. Yes, worse than the My Hero Academia fanbase and their toxic ships. Worse than the Chainsaw Man fanbase and their tendencies to make animal sounds. Worse than the One Piece fanbase, which sees a couple of well-animated episodes and starts comparing Toei to Ufotable, as if anything Toei has or will ever produce will come even remotely close visually to an average Ufotable anime. The Attack on Titan fanbase trumps them all. Why? Well, there are a lot of reasons which we'll get to. Keep in mind, when I say fanbase, I don't mean every single AOT fan because I myself am one. I mean the vast majority of them. Like and subscribe if you are not part of the vast majority of non-subscribers who watch my videos. That was a good one actually, and let's get started. Let's begin with the most bewildering reason. The Attack on Titan fanbase hates their own show. Whenever you think of a fanbase, you picture a group of people passionate about what they are fans of. An anime in this case. They speak nothing but well of their favorite show, endorse it every chance they get, argue with people who speak negatively of their show. Yes, this can and does often get very obnoxious. However, the Attack on Titan fanbase actively goes around looking for reasons why their own show is bad, why the adaptation is bad, why the ending is bad, why character X is bad. It blows my mind. Sometimes this happens because fans have followed the thing for years and maybe they feel the older content was better than what is being offered now. But that's not the case with Attack on Titan. A vast majority of the Attack on Titan fans only started watching the show or anime itself a few years back at best. They don't get to reminisce about the good old times when the show was, in giant quotes, better, while they themselves binged the whole show over a week or two during the funny cough lockdown in 2020 just like I did. So why does the fanbase hate their own show? It's not for nostalgia related reasons. Well, unfortunately I can't answer that for you, since I love the show. Even if I look at it in the most objective way I can, the positives in every aspect of Attack on Titan comfortably outdoes the negatives and then some. But most Attack on Titan fans would much rather actively find flaws instead of positives. Here is a great example. Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2 had an episode titled Night of the End, the 9th episode of Part 2, which infamously featured a great deal of forests and trees during important conversations. The episode was directed by Hiroshi Hamasaki, a veteran animator and director best known for having directed Steins Gate. Those trees were absolutely intentional, but instead of even stopping for a second and thinking about what the directive significance of it could be, the fanbase instantly started to hate on it. Now here's my subjective interpretation of the same, and I correctly guessed the reason for the real lie in episode 3 of part 2 which got confirmed by Hayashi himself in an interview, so I'm good at stuff like that. The trees symbolize the characters not being able to look each other in the eye or to properly process the past they had. Cutting away to the forest is symbolic and represents the characters trying to look away as Yelena makes them recall past events. But the point is, instead of trying to think of a reason as to why a whole team of professionals would use visuals like this, fans automatically assume it's some sort of a bad thing. They didn't bother thinking about this scene, however they do seem to use their limited brain power at times, unfortunately at places where it's not needed. Very recently MAPPA released the Blu-ray for Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2, and one of the changes they made was uncensoring this scene by replacing the strong filter with a weaker one. And I have seen so many essays as to why it's a bad change all over the place. Yes, the original version looked better, but is that really that big of a deal, this 2-second scene? Where was this analyzing brain of yours when Night of the End came out? Attack on Titan fans are extremely stuck up. Let's look at Bob. Bob is an average Attack on Titan fan. Bob thinks the way he interprets Attack on Titan is the only correct way to do so. Bob believes that the side he deems is correct is objectively correct. Bob feels the way he wants the story to progress and end is exactly how it should, or the entire series is garbage. What other fans want, what logically makes sense, what the author wants, none of that matters. Bob is the most important part of Attack on Titan. But more often than not, Bob has misinterpreted the series. Is it entirely Bob's fault? No, some of the fault goes to Studio Wit. Wit. Most people who claim Wit was better adaptation-wise have not read the whole manga. They either started where season 3 left off or where season 4 part 1 left off. One of the biggest blunders Studio Wit did was replacing everything Mikasa did that showed any form of characterization with an Eren-related line. Probably because to Wit, Attack on Titan was just an action show. There's a whole thread of how Mikasa got butchered by Wit. I'll link it in the description. But when Mikasa does something that makes perfect sense according to the manga, the anime-only people feel like it's abrupt. When Mikasa agreed to help stop Eren as she felt genocide was not the answer, anime-only people like Bob wondered since when did Mikasa start caring about anyone who's not Eren? She always did, Bob. Wit decided to cut it out. But the point remains, Attack on Titan fans are extremely stuck up. If Bob feels the appropriate end to Attack on Titan is Historia using Eren's bones as a pole and opening a strip club, then that is how the series has to end, or Isayama does not know how to write. Normal fans read or watch what the author offers. Attack on Titan fans write their own fanfics in their head and see if the canon story matches up. If it doesn't, the story is at fault. Everybody is an expert on animation, CGI, and color grading. When season 4 part 1 came out, magically most of the Attack on Titan fanbase got their degrees from some prestigious school of animation. Everybody all of a sudden knows all there is to know about animation, CGI, and more. Well, of course, around 95% of them don't have the slightest clue about any of these topics. To them, animation is action. Action animation is the only form of Sakuga that exists, and everything else is filler. They can't even tell good action animation from bad. Any fight that moves fast is apparently well animated. Needless to say, they have absolutely no expertise or knowledge to tell good CGI from bad, and yet they just have to run their mouths. How many people hated on the action in episode 6 and 7 of part 1, and compared to that, how many people appreciated the phenomenal character acting in episode 2? Because none of them actually realized that the character acting and movement in episode 2 is far more impressive animation-wise than most 3D gear scenes the show has offered. Do I blame fans for not being educated about animation? No. I blame fans for running their mouths about the topic while not being educated in the same. Everybody is a director. Aside from the PhD in animation that 95% of the Attack on Titan fans definitely have, everybody is also apparently world-renowned directors. This scene should have been done like that, this soundtrack should have been used instead of that, and so on. Of course, when you actually think about any of these expert inputs that these graduates of the Basement Dweller School of Direction have to offer, they don't make any sense. Wanting to use a soundtrack with powerful vocals in a scene with important dialogue, essentially making sure people can't hear any of the dialogue, the list goes on. Not only does the fanbase have their own fanfics about the actual story, they also have their own fan animations about how the story should be presented, which in and of itself is fine, but if Isayama and MAPPA respectively do anything different, they are the ones who can't do their jobs. Those were the main things that I could think of that makes the Attack on Titan fanbase the worst fiction has to offer. They just seem to have so much time on their hands. And I say they, embarrassingly enough, I too am a fan of Attack on Titan. There are people, some of whom I know, that are cool. They enjoy what the series has to offer. Do they not criticize anything? No, they do. I do too. But there's a difference between criticizing and sending death threats to the director and even the voice actors just because the character they play did something. It's truly disappointing. Although the fanbase does seem to have chilled out a bit, trust me, once that final episode that adapts the final chapter comes out, the toxicity will be back like it never left. Hell, I believe the moment part 3 starts, the toxicity will be back. There's something or the other in every chapter from this point on that will be tricky to adapt and will piss off a certain portion of the fanbase as a result. So that was it. What do you think of the Attack on Titan fanbase? Comment down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, especially subscribe because my reach has dipped a bit, and until next time.